I'm going to put a trigger warning at the beginning of today's episode because it is a very powerful conversation that we have, but I want to let you know from the outset that everyone is happy and healthy and well today. I'm chatting today with Cassie and Marissa, who are parents to a beautiful baby boy, and they live in Florida. And we talk about the journey to creating their family that involves some ups and some downs and some scary and traumatic moments. Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Welcome, everyone. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Cassie and Marissa. Welcome to the two of you. We have shuffled schedules a few times to be able to finally make this happen. I'm so grateful to be able to have the two of you both here today. Tell us about who you are and the members of your family, please.
I am Cassie, and this is my wife, Marissa. And we have a son that's 9 months old. His name is Noah, and I'm Mama.
And I'm Mommy.
Yep. As of right now, he doesn't say anything. Most of the time he says Dada because he can say his D's, you know?
Right. That's the most heartbreaking thing, isn't it? When the first thing they come out with is Dada, and you're like,
Yeah.
Fine, call me Dada. Just call me something.
Exactly. We're like, okay, sure.
So you call yourselves Mommy and Mama. And
Yes.
do you ever get that confused? Because I know there are some families that I know that do that, and then they just get confused, and Mama calls Mommy Mama, and Mommy calls Mom. It's just because you're just not used to speaking about yourself in the third person either, right?
Right. I don't think we're really strict on it. So we've always said, like, before Noah, we were like, what would we like to be called? And she was drawn to Mommy. I was drawn to Mama. But we also were realistic about our child would probably come up with something else one day. I could be Mama C and she could be Mama M and anything, you know? So we actually go back and forth sometimes, and I'll call her Mama and she'll call me Mommy. Like, he just knows we're both Mommy and Mama at the moment. Like, that's just what we go by. Even like if family talks to us and they're like holding Noah, they'll be like, oh, here's Mommy, and they might be talking to me. We just kind of intertwine that for either which way. And as he gets older, I think he would recognize like who's who by a specific name, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And at some point he's just going to go, Mom, and it'll be either one of you, whoever's bothered him at that moment.
For sure.
Tell us a little bit about the two of you. When did the two of you meet? How long have you been together? Where are you living? All those kinds of things.
Let's see. We both grew up in a small town. It's called Inverness. It's in Florida. And we grew up, you're 35. We're like 4 years apart. So we did not go to high school together, but my sisters went to her high school. So like we had mutual friends and we knew of each other, but we didn't actually reconnect until you were out of college,
I
right?
think it was 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our first date was actually based off of a bet.
Oh, well, that went well, like it looks like.
We were playing cornhole. It's like so silly. We were playing cornhole. And we were like, whoever loses has to take the other one out on a date. And we stuck true to that. And we went on that date a while after that as a joke. We didn't think it would actually ever happen, but it did. And then from that date, it kind of just trickled into every hanging out after that multiple times. And we eventually started dating. And we've now been together for 8 years, married for 4.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been awesome.
It sounds like it was a COVID wedding.
Yes, it was. It was supposed to be 2020. And then we ended up getting married in 2021 because because of COVID. It was a blessing in disguise too, because neither one of us really wanted a big wedding, but our
Right.
families had like such a big hand in like wanting this big wedding to be there and everything. And because of COVID, it let us like kind of sit with that. And we were like, actually, we'd like something really small and intimate. So we actually got eloped, and our family, a few family members were there, but it was just like small and exactly what we wanted. So it worked out just the way it was supposed to be.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, COVID was crappy for an
Yeah.
overwhelming number of people. I won't try to downplay it, but there were little blessings that did come out of that. Sometimes connections with people, sometimes having the wedding we wanted, those kinds of things were the little gifts that came out of such a horror that we had to live through, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you, I mean, you're growing up and you're living in Florida as queer individuals. Have you always identified as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community?
I would say for me personally, I acknowledged myself when I was like middle school.
Okay.
And then high school was basically closeted.
Hmm.
And then out of high school, I was more comfortable and
Right.
then, curious. And that's when I like opened up about that. And I had a pretty good experience coming out to my family and friends. And that it was pretty like it felt normal for me. And Marissa like has a little bit of a different experience with that.
Yeah, so I was closeted all through high school and some of college, but college was kind of like, I was finally off on my own out of that tiny town. So that is when I came out to some people. I actually didn't come out like to my parents until me and Cassie started dating.
Okay.
So that was what, 2017?
Yeah, I basically I knew I didn't want to be it wasn't I was a secret, but I was like I don't, I wanted to be open, be able to talk about it and be out in the world. And we kind of talked about it, and I was like, is that something you can do, because I don't think I can do this otherwise. And then she
Yeah.
came out to her family, and that's how she was able to be like open and out with her family now.
Right.
Yeah, it was a struggle, but we have come very far. So
Yeah.
everyone is very accepting now, but it did take my family a very long time to get where we are now.
I'd say like a really rough 3 years probably during us being together in the beginning.
For sure.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah. And there is a stereotype around the world that Florida is one of the places that is less safe to be a member of the queer community because it is a predominantly red state.
Mhm.
Do you feel where you are in the state that you're kind of in a blue bubble or you're in a safe space? Or do you think it's because you're in a more smaller community, perhaps, that you know so many people that they may not be okay with queer folk in general, but because they know you, they've accepted who you are for the community?
I think a little bit of both
Both,
of
that's-
that. Yeah, we're in a small bubble of blue.
Mhm.
Um, but I think mainly in a small community, people just like love us and accept us, whatever they believe in and however they feel about that, because we're in a small knit community. But we're also in the part of Florida that is a pretty big community here. So
Yeah, we're close to St. Pete, which is
huge,
Yeah, huge.
So I feel safe here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We both moved out of our small town though, being from the same small town, to because red all the way, uncomfortable. You are not seeing other families that look like ours, and it's not somewhere we knew we wanted to raise our children.
Right,
So we got out, and we do love where we live now.
right. And that's sort of the thing you have to think about, especially as you go beyond just being the two of you and you start thinking about expanding your family to include other members, that you want to make sure that you're in a space where not just you are safe, but more importantly, that your kids are safe, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. When did the conversation about having babies first start? Was it an early, like, third date in, I'm definitely going to be a parent someday? Or was it like 2 years of marriage and we're like, well, I guess we're going to start a family. We should do it now?
Yeah, we definitely were not like U-haulers for sure. We were a little slower. And I would say like after a couple of years,
Yeah.
2, 3 years, we really started talking about like wanting a family together. and what that would look like, how many kids would we want, if we wanted to get married and stuff like that. So I would say a few years before we actually talked seriously about having kids.
Right. Did you know in your gut always that you wanted to be a parent?
For me, yes, from very, very little.
Yeah.
For me, yes, but no. I have like a ton of nieces and nephews, so I always like kind of just saw myself as an aunt, but I was like, I want to be a mom, but I think the idea of it really scared me
Yeah.
until we were like, all right, we're doing this. And then I was like, full blown, we're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you've decided you're going to do it. The first question is always between people, a household with two uteruses, whose uterus are you going to use?
Right. For us, that was pretty easy because we both desired to experience pregnancy.
Okay.
And a no-brainer for us was whoever's older should go first. You have less time, whatever. And so we chose for Marissa to go first, and that led us on a wild journey of having Noah. A long, crazy journey.
Did you use your own egg, Marissa?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then the next question that comes up always is, how do you figure out the donor situation? Because if you've got two uteruses, you're clearly missing a gamete or two involving some sperm. So did you use an anonymous donor, a bank, a friend, a family member?
Yeah, we used a bank,
Okay.
and we used an ID donor, which is not an anonymous donor. But for us, I don't know how each sperm bank goes, but for us, it means that at the age of 18, it is Noah's choice if he would like to reach out to that donor to have information. But anything prior to being 18 years of age, there's no communication whatsoever. But we didn't want that. We didn't want to have that decision. We didn't want to make that decision for Noah.
Right.
We wanted that to be for him. At that point, he will fully understand. We also will always have him understand and learn that he is donor conceived,
Right.
That's important to us.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's kind of hard to hide it once
Yeah.
he gets old enough to kind of understand it. But it's nice to know that, at the age of 3, he can walk down the street when somebody says, "Who are your parents?" He says, "I have two moms." And he's
Right.
comfortable and confident in that, because you never want him to feel like there's anything to be ashamed of, because there's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
You used an anonymous donor, well, anonymous to you for now.
Yeah.
And you used your egg, Marissa, you carried. Did you do IUI or IVF? Or what was that journey like, I suppose?
You can go ahead.
I wrote down a few so I wouldn't forget because it's been so long. But
Sure.
we started back in January of 2022. That was our very first consult with the doctor. And
Yeah.
we ended up having 2 consults to figure out which route would we go. And we chose to do IUI first because financially it was more affordable for us.
Sure.
Our insurance didn't cover but a couple of things here and there, like blood work. And
also, sorry, but also I was like very confident.
Oh.
For some reason, I was like, I'm gonna get pregnant right away.
I wonder if everyone feels like that, because yes, we were like, it's happening.
Both of my sisters are very fertile. They 4 kids. My brother has 4 kids that had no struggles. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna have any problem. Like, I don't know. We were like, so we'll do IUI. Yeah, we're gonna get pregnant the very first try.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you need to have that hope, though, right?
Yeah.
Because it is, especially when you're needing to use the assistance of a reproductive center like a fertility clinic and a reproductive endocrinologist, you need to have faith in your body to do this, because it is so scientific in every other aspect that you're like, okay, well, if that's all science, then let's let this part be faith. It's
Right.
going to work.
Yeah, that definitely pulled us through. Like we knew that this journey could be hard. So I think mentally we really prepared ourselves, and that's like, it carried us through. We just kept saying like, it's going to work. Like it will work, and that led us to the first IUI, which was February of 22. And then we ended up having 3 more within the year of 22, ending in 4 failed IUIs. then we made the decision. We took a break.
Good.
I think we took vacation, took some time off, just kind of like, financially needed to ramp that and just kind of take a break from it. It was really hard on her body and just
Yeah.
all of it. And so we moved on into 2023 and she did an egg retrieval in July. So we took a good break there. The last IUI in 23 was November. And then we waited until July of 2023 to do her egg retrieval.
Good for you for giving yourself because it can feel like you're working against a clock. And so you're thinking tick, 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 tick. I need to make this happen. And unfortunately, that's just amping up the stress and anxiety, right? But good for you for respecting and honoring yourself on this journey. And not just yourself as individuals, but as a couple too, to give yourselves time to be a couple and not just be trying to get pregnant couple.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
definitely, in between, like every failed try that we did, we were always planning like a small getaway. And I think that helped a lot because we were like reminding ourselves, like, we're still us, like, we are not pregnant yet, but it's going to happen. And we just like kind of put that at the forefront of everything. And
Yeah.
that also helped us, I think, just kind of like moving on and continuing to try. So into 2023, we did that egg retrieval, and then a couple of days after egg retrieval, she did a fresh transfer.
Okay.
The first time she transferred, we transferred one egg and that ended up failing. So when we went back to the doctor, just I think 4 months later, we took 4 months after that first failed IVF cycle, we decided we got comfortable with thinking we could possibly have twins if we transferred two eggs. But
Right.
because IVF is so much more embryos, IVF is so much more expensive than
Right.
doing IUI or other ways. We were like, we would like to transfer two embryos for better chances. And we just kind of like, if we have twins, we have twins, there's a possibility regardless.
Yeah.
And we transferred two embryos that time, and one ended up being Noah. So that's how we have Noah now
There you go. That's
after the
that's a
second
lot.
IVF cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's still a lot to go through. How many eggs did you retrieve when you did your egg retrieval?
14.
Okay. And how many made it to day 5?
Only 5.
Okay. So you've essentially used 3 of those now. You still have 2 on ice, is that right?
Yes.
So finally you have a conception, and then how did the rest of the journey go to getting him earthside?
Pregnancy for you. That was, I think you speak on your own pregnancy, but like I'll say from my point of view, was beautiful. That was like my favorite time. I think that I miss her being pregnant. Like she was glowing all the time from like from me looking in. She had a fairly easy pregnancy. Like she was enjoying it. There was not a lot of struggle during pregnancy. And it was just so much fun. We were just like enjoying life again, knowing like we were going to have finally our little baby. And I honestly, it was like my favorite time in our life so far besides having Noah now, but her being pregnant was just like so beautiful. I was like so in love.
I
But
love
while
that.
you were pregnant, like what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was terrified, honestly.
Fair,
I was
fair.
scared to, I wanted to get pregnant. And then when it was all happening, I was terrified, got pregnant, happy, scared to death, honestly. I was scared, but I did have an amazing pregnancy. I never got sick. I was like never nauseous. I didn't have like food aversions, nothing at all. I didn't have any cravings, which I was disappointed. I wanted cravings, but all I craved was a fountain soda. But um,
Sure.
yeah, I agree. Like I couldn't have asked for a better pregnancy. I honestly sometimes I would forget that I was pregnant. It sounds crazy, but I just felt normal. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
When you say you were terrified once the pregnancy actually happened, what part of it was, is it just because there's so much that's unknown? Is it because now you got it in there, you have to figure out a way to get it out? Is it not knowing how your body's going to respond to it? What part was the scary part for you? And how did you navigate getting past that? Because at the end of the day, you have to get to a point where you reconcile whatever I'm afraid of. I can't give in to that fear because I have to have this child.
Right. So I was scared of delivery, but at first I was, and then I never really let my mind go there after, like maybe like the first trimester, I was like, I'm not even going to think about it. Everyone would ask me, are you scared? I'm like, I haven't even let my brain go there because that's all I'll think about and I will be terrified.
Yeah.
But I think I think the journey being so hard that I think I was just scared that something was going to happen.
Sure.
I was terrified that, I was going to lose him or something. I was like, everything's gone bad. Could have been worse, but everything's gone not our way.
Right.
Conceiving him, so I was just scared. Like we had a heart monitor at home that we bought on Amazon, and I would check his heart rate like 20 times a day. When we found out I was pregnant, I would go to the bathroom and I would take a pregnancy test every single day for like the first 2 trimesters.
Yep.
I didn't believe it. I was so scared.
Yeah. And it's so hard to have faith in your body's journey, right? I mean, if we could just get that glass belly for like a couple hours on a Tuesday afternoon every week all through pregnancy, that we could see the baby and the baby could go, I'm okay in here. Don't you worry about a thing.
Yeah.
See, it's all
Right.
happening the way that it's supposed to, but it doesn't. So it's so hard to just trust that your body's doing what it's supposed to do, right?
And I was like, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's not reacting right to the fertility medicine.
Right.
Why is it gonna do what it needs to do now? So
That makes perfect sense to me. And good for you for finding the ways to kind of shut it down in your brain. I mean, I think one of the things that often surprises people when I'm talking to them is when I say every single person I know who's been pregnant checks for blood every single time they go to the bathroom.
for sure.
Not because you assume that you're going to lose the pregnancy necessarily, but you're afraid that you might. And so
Yeah.
you just like when you're looking for the first day of your menstrual cycle, you're like, oh, I know it's coming. Oh, there it is. When you're pregnant, you do it every single time you go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have to find the way to navigate all of that so you can stay healthy and well mentally as well as physically through the pregnancy.
Exactly.
So how did the birth part go? So often when somebody has conceived using IVF, obstetricians and care providers want them to be induced at 38 or 39 weeks. Was that sort of your experience?
Yep. So I got induced, was like 38 or 30, I think 39.
39.
Yep.
At 39 weeks, you can tell the story because
She doesn't know the story.
yeah.
Okay.
It was her labor was nothing we thought like you could ever imagine. It was so much trauma.
Oh no.
Lots of trauma. So we get there because they tell us that, well, first of all, the doctors the entire time considered her high risk just because of IVF. That's just what they kept saying. She is high risk. When we went back to our fertility doctor, he told us that that actually wasn't true. He said, I don't know why doctors do that, but it's just their go-to to say IVF is because maybe it's unknown to them.
Yeah,
a little
just
bit.
that a lot of doctors aren't as experienced really as they could be. So they kind of freak out in a sense because they don't really, it's not normal.
So right off the
Right.
bat, she was considered high risk.
Right. And there's a difference between IVF conceived babies for someone who has tried for a year in a cisgendered heterosexual relationship and they didn't get pregnant. I mean, at the end of the day, you weren't trying every month. You were using IUI and not having intercourse in a cisgendered heterosexual relationship. So you don't know that you have fertility issues. Maybe their measurement of your window of fertility or ovulation was different than what your body actually is. There's so many variables. You may not actually have a fertility issue. They may just perceive it. But I can appreciate that an obstetrician may think, if you're truly needing IVF because you are infertile, per se, then will your hormones all line up the way they're supposed to for you to go into labor? But
Right.
they don't know that about you because you haven't had all of the other variables that they would use to judge that. It's so hard. Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. You know about Baby Ready because you're listening to this podcast, so you know that we are all about queer family planning and helping you have the family of your dreams. But did you know that we don't abandon you once your baby arrives? We actually offer parenting coaching as well, and that's not just for the newborn phase, although we are there for that, but it's through toddlerhood and young children, tweens, and even through the teen years. When you need someone unbiased to lend an ear so that they can hear where your struggles truly are and help you come up with a path and a plan that feels truly right for you and your individual family, don't hesitate to reach out. We are always happy to be there for you. Visit us at www.babyready.info for more information.
Because they did they said that she was high risk. They planned for her to be induced. So we go in at 39 weeks, and I believe we entered the hospital at midnight is when they told us to go. And such a strange hour, but I think it started way earlier than that, and they just kept backing it up. So we tried to sleep all day to like be like, okay, we're probably gonna be up all night. Didn't happen. We were
No, too anxious and excited.
Yeah. So we get to the hospital, and I think we're both anxious, excited, and we're dancing around and trying to have the most of it. The last bit of her belly.
Once we get there, the nurse says everything. She leaves, and I look at Cassie and I'm like, now what? And Cassie's like, you have to get in the gown. I was like, why? And then that's when the panic came back, and I was like, I don't want to. I was like almost crying. I was shaking. I'm like,
she's like, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Please, you take it. I don't want it anymore. I'm so scared.
Yeah, there was a moment that just hit her, and the doctor was like, undress, put this gown on, and you can get in the bed. And she was like, wait, what?
I'm like, in the bed? For what?
We're not here to have a baby or anything.
Doesn't he just magically pop out somehow?
Yeah, right? Nobody told me this part, no. But so we had to be there for a short period of time before they gave her this induction medicine. Pitocin, I think. And then the Pitocin did nothing. So after that, they gave her a couple oral medications.
Mm-hmm.
That did nothing. So we're at a few hours now.
Mm-hmm.
After, I want to say like 4 or 5 hours, nothing was happening. So the doctor came in and did like a balloon procedure. I don't know.
A catheter. Yep. Balloon catheter procedure. Yep.
Yeah. And that stayed in. She said it could stay in up to 6 hours is what she told us. And it did. With nothing. Her body was doing nothing.
It didn't dilate, nothing.
Didn't do anything. So the doctor comes in and she goes, I'm going to take this out, and we're just going to see where you're at. So she takes that out, and the doctor leaves and gives it I think 15 minutes went by, and Marissa goes, I think I'm peeing myself. And we're like, okay, your water's probably breaking. So we get a nurse. The nurse comes in. She goes, no, sweetie, you haven't broken your water. I'm not seeing anything. And Marissa was like, well, I think I am. Why am I feel like I'm peeing. So the doctor comes in, and yes, her water was breaking, but it didn't break all the way. So the doctor chose to do it the rest of the way.
Right.
Which ended up being like a rush of water. And I remember sitting off to the side of the bed, and the doctor was like, she was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. That's like important to know. It was very intense. There was a lot of water.
And it was rushing out.
Yeah, the doctor wasn't expecting that either.
Were they telling you beforehand that they thought you had polyhydramnios or anything to suggest you had extra water?
Nothing.
Okay.
We're just thinking this is just normal protocol, like even with all the medication she's had, there's been like 6 different introduced medications while we've been there at this point, on top of that balloon procedure. And so the doctor was like, all right, well, her body is probably just going to take its natural, it's going to go on its natural thing now, and we're going to have a baby here soon. We're like, okay, well, the doctor leaves, and she says, tells the nurses to get her comfortable. So they keep adjusting her.
And we were very, we were dead set on, I do not want a C-section.
Unless it's absolute.
Yes, it's an emergency. No, I do not. I really did not want a C-section. Not for any real reason. I think I I don't know, I just wanted to do it naturally.
And it's surgery. It's major surgery, right? I mean,
Right.
it is a safe way to have a baby if that's why you need to do it, but it's okay to say, I'm not signing up willingly for major surgery if I don't have to.
Right. I was dead set not doing it because, and backing up, when I was pregnant, they kept trying to convince me to have a C-section, and I was like, I'm not doing it. And they were like, well, he's big. I was like, I don't care. I'm not doing it. But anyways, that's just, that'll come into play.
Yeah. So the doctor tells the nurses to get her comfortable. And as they were doing that, I noticed the doctors looking at the screen, and they kept moving Marissa to one side, and then they'd say, no, let's move her to the other side. And they did that like 4 times. And they were like, they didn't like what they were seeing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the doctor, and the doctor came in, and she subtly says to me, I think it's time we do a C-section. And I was like, okay, if you think it's necessary. And she was like, I do. And it went from, she was like, I will have my nurse come and get you in 15 minutes. It was calm, cool, and collected. And then she turns around and tells the nurses to take her out. Like, it turned very quick, very fast. And the nurses grab a hold of her bedside, and they are running out the door with her. And I'm shaking at this point. I'm standing off to the side, and a nurse gets me gowned up, the whole gear, and says, why don't you get your phone ready so you can take pictures with her? You'll be at the head of the bed with her, and I'll come back in 15 minutes for you. And I said, okay. I am with my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law in the room. I'm not alone. And it's just us 3. And so the nurses leave, and it's in the middle of the night. And it's kind of like we were in a private hospital. So we were actually the only patients that night. So
Okay.
So nobody's around. So it's just us 3 in this room, and 10 minutes goes by, nothing. 15 minutes goes by, I'm getting really anxious. 20 minutes goes by, and I'm like, okay, they haven't come and got me. But my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law are like, maybe it's taking just a little bit longer to come and get you. We reach about 45 minutes, and I'm still gowned up, sitting, waiting around for nobody. And my mother-in-law is now, her daughter is also missing, in action right now. And we're pacing the hallways. There's not a janitor in sight. I mean, there's nobody we can ask what is going on. It's just, it looks like a ghost town. So I'm starting to cry and panic. And a little while after 45 minutes, finally, I don't remember I think it was a couple nurses had come in and said that there were some complications during the C-section.
During the C-section. You were supposed to be there for the C-section.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I was like, okay. And I was like, well, are they okay? And they said, oh gosh, I'm missing such a big part. The first person that comes in the room when I totally forgot that. It's such a trauma. When you think back, gosh. So we're sitting there, and a little after 45 minutes, a nurse comes down the hallway that I did not recognize prior. And she's shaking, and her phone is in her hand. And she was like, are you mom? And I said, I am. And she goes, well, I have pictures of your beautiful son. And she's showing me pictures of Noah born. I'm glad I have those photos, but I was like, I was so confused. And I said, okay, so he's good. And she goes, oh, he came out screaming, perfectly healthy baby boy. And I said, okay. And immediately my mind shut off, and all I could think of was Marissa.
Right.
Once I knew he was fine, and I saw him, I was gone out of my mind, and I was like, where's my wife? And she was like, I'm just the baby doctor. I'm just the baby nurse. I have nothing. I have no other information. And so my mother-in-law comes in, and she was like, well, you need to find somebody with information, because where is she? We don't know if she's alive at this point.
Right.
We've got no information. And so this nurse tells us that she will try to get somebody to come in here and talk to us. And a little while longer, somebody does. And it's a couple nurses to let us know that when they got Marissa back there, they ran out because I guess the doctor, someone's blood pressure,
His heart rate kept going up,
and they were
and down, up and
concerned
down.
with Noah.
Mm-hmm.
But once they actually got in the room, she said when she opened Marissa up, immediately Noah came out and was screaming good. And when she paid more attention to Marissa, She said that her placenta ruptured and then she hemorrhaged. And she said, we were like, well, why didn't anybody come and get us? Like, why didn't anyone tell us? And basically, the doctor told us that all hands were on deck. They actually called doctors from other floors. She said there was so much blood. She had 2 units of blood given to her in the room. And I haven't seen Noah or Marissa at this point. Somebody's telling us this story of what had happened. And they were like, nobody could come and get you because there was nobody available that didn't have a hand in saving her life.
Mm-hmm.
So the nurse said, I will be bringing in your son in a few minutes. So I'm with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. And I just remember I heard them say Marissa was okay. She was in recovery. I heard them say that she was okay, but I didn't believe them until I saw her. So I'm falling to my knees. I am not being dramatic, but that's what if you were watching a movie, it was just like so much drama to it. It was just how I was feeling. And I just was thinking like I've lost her. Like I don't believe that you're telling me she is alive and well right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because they weren't really saying that, they just said she's in recovery. And so somebody brings me Noah, and I remember looking at him, and I think this is important that I didn't feel anything for probably 2 days with him.
Yeah.
There was not an initial instant bond, like I just couldn't. I knew I had this baby in my arms and I got to hold him. As soon as he came in the room, they put a band on me. I held him and I held him for probably 2 hours in this rocking chair in the room. And I was just tears. I was like, my body was shaking. I was just crying and crying and crying. And I barely think I was breathing. And then they brought Marissa into the room and I physically took a breath, a loud gasping breath when she entered the room because like she was finally back.
Yeah.
And I remember I touched her whole body when she got in the room. I was touching her because I was like, you're here, you're alive, you're here.
Yeah.
It's such an emotional story because unless you were there, it was just so surreal. It was wild. And so she doesn't remember anything from it,
No.
of course.
Well, I had the epidural before, I think before my water broke, but I kept telling them, I was like, it's only working, only half of my body was numb.
Yep.
Which apparently is very common.
It is.
So I remember them wheeling me back because I was telling Cassie, I'm like, they were literally running, like they were running my bed into the wall. And that's when I was like looking up at the ceiling and I was like, this is bad. Like something bad is about to happen because
Yeah.
I don't know, like she said, I thought I was in a movie. It was crazy. So then I get back there and they're like trying to transfer me to the other bed. And they're like, you need to hurry. And I'm like, well, I can only feel half of my body. They're like, hurry up. You have to get to the other bed. And I'm like, okay. So whatever. I get to the other bed and she's like, okay, I'm about to cut you open. She's like, she's like poking my stomach and she's like, can you feel this? And I said, yes. And she's like, okay, so they give me more medicine and then she does it again. She's like, can you feel this? I'm like, yes. And she kept doing it over and over. And she's like, you can feel this. And she's like, she needs more medicine. And the anesthesiologist was like, she can't have any more. She's had like
Right.
way too much. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. I said, just cut me open. Just do it. And the doctor's like,
Because now you're terrified that there's something horribly wrong with your child and you just want him to be safe.
right. I'm like, just do it. And she's like, I can't do, you can't feel like, you can't feel this. And I was like, I'll be fine. Just do it. And so then she's like, no, we're putting you to sleep. So they put me to sleep. And then obviously all I remember is being in recovery. I open my eyes and I'm like looking around. I have no idea what just happened. And I was like, where is he? And nobody, no nurses or anybody was even around to tell me anything. All I remember is saying, where is he? And then I fell back asleep, I guess. And then I woke up in the room.
I mean, part of me is grateful that you don't remember some of that.
Right, sure.
Because it sounds like it was terrifying.
Yeah.
For all parties. And taking time to bond with Noah after that kind of trauma is, I would be more surprised if you told me that you held him and you instantly fell deeply in love. And that's because you are excited for him. You love him in theory because he's your baby together, but you have a life with the love of your life, and you're terrified that something's happened to her that you just can't. So that takes a toll that I don't think many people actually acknowledge or give respect to.
Yeah, I remember sitting there holding him thinking, how am I going to do this alone? I didn't, there were so many things
Yeah.
rushing through my head. And I was looking at this little baby, but nothing was there. But
Yeah.
we ended up being in the hospital for 5 days for her recovery.
Yeah.
And within a couple of days, it all came in, rushing in, and we were so
Yeah.
in love. But just those first like 24 hours for sure after that had happened, it was so hard. Because I felt like I'd lost her and then I got her back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was just like a lot of trauma during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was on so much medicine, like it stinks because like all of our pictures, like my eyes are like all crazy. They handed what I like came to and they were like, he's fine. And I was like, well, I guess I was like, well, I'm glad he is.
Like she was really funny
Yeah.
because she was like loopy.
But I'm like, I'm holding him for like the first few days on so much medicine. Like it felt like so weird, almost like the same feeling as you almost. Like I was just like, okay, I'm holding him. I don't know. Like also didn't really
Yeah.
have that connection because I didn't even know what was going on. It was
Right.
it's like all such a blur. It's so weird. It's like such a weird time to think back on. We both had to go to therapy for it because it's just it was hard.
And that was going to be a question I asked you, because I think that so many people have birth traumas that they experience, and then they get told by the people around them that they should just be grateful that they have a happy, healthy baby.
Exactly, yes.
And you're allowed to both need to navigate the trauma and process the trauma and be grateful for your baby being happy and healthy at the same time. Both can be equally true, but we don't, as a society, we tend to want to say, push the trauma down and celebrate the baby. And no, process the trauma, and then it makes it easier to celebrate the baby.
Right.
Definitely, yeah.
How was the recovery overall, and where are your heads now when it comes to family creation or expansion or anything else?
Recovery was horrible.
She couldn't do
It was so bad.
anything. Well, on top of a C-section, you can't do anything. But then
Yeah.
the additional surgery that she had, she was not able to even pick him up. I was the only person to physically pick him up. I could hand him to her, but like
Right.
she couldn't move. It was terrible.
I literally couldn't do anything.
I'd say for 2 weeks it was that rough. And then
It took a
then we got to enjoy
but it
being
took me a
home.
while to like fully recover, like months
Yes.
probably. Because also she said, I guess my uterus wouldn't shrink back down to normal. She said it was like compared it to a plastic bag. She was
Grocery
like,
bag.
it was just like
Yeah.
flapping in the wind. Like she said, I almost had a full hysterectomy. I don't know how she saved me from not having one, but so then I come home and apparently my uterus wasn't shrinking back. So I was bleeding very, very, very bad.
Profusely.
Yeah,
Yep.
very bad. So I kept having to go back to the doctor, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I got put on some medication because I guess I had a lot of blood clots in my uterus also. So I got on some medication and that healed that. But every time I was like, okay, I feel better, then something would happen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, something's not right. So then I had to go back. But at the end of the day, they told me to never get pregnant again. So, because she said it will more than likely happen again. So, which kind of stinks because we've always said Cass will go again, Cass will go next. And then hopefully, if we had a third, I wanted to go again because I'm like, my pregnancy was amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to do that again. But
After having a child, we talked like, is that a risk we're willing to take at that point? If
Right,
they're
not
telling
right.
us there's a high risk of her not making it from another labor,
Yeah.
So obviously I would never do that. So
No, but then again, much like the trauma, you have to process and mourn the fact that the picture that you had
Yeah.
is going to be different. Because if you do have a third, it's not going to be you that carries.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. We've said already that we do have two frozen embryos left. And we do plan on continuing to ultimately, we hope out of those two embryos, there's two children, but you never know, you know.
Right?
And I will be going next, and we're actually in process of that now. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's pretty exciting. We always knew that we wanted to have them close in age, and I full-time work now, and Marissa stays home with our son. Kind of, we're just trying to figure out when I would be off of work for pregnancy, stuff like that, because my work is kind of seasonal. And so we planned that we're gonna be pregnant again this summer, hopefully, if it works in our favor. And we
Right.
won't be jumping through so many hoops like Marissa did. Basically, she did all of the hard work, and I just get to do the transfer. So I miss out on all of the egg retrieval and the extra medications she had to go through. I get to just step in and say, okay, transfer
There you
this
go.
embryo. So we're hoping that it works that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sending all the baby dust I can possibly muster up for you because that would be amazing. That would be amazing. For listeners who obviously can't see what I'm seeing, this sweet little angel has been on the screen off and on for the better part of this conversation, and he's just being passed back and forth between his mamas, and he's just having the time of his life getting all the loving. He's so beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
He is like, he's such a happy baby. It's ever since he was born, like everywhere we go, we get stopped and they're like, that is the happiest baby I've ever seen. And it's crazy because like we're like, we went through so much, you know, the delivery
He
was
was
so much
so wanted.
Yes.
that I feel like we really did get blessed through all of that with he is such a good baby. Like
Yeah.
he's slept through the night. He always almost.
Yeah, motherhood has been
Yeah.
such a dream for us since he has been born. And we got to get out of the newborn trenches, if you will, and her recovery.
Yeah.
Motherhood, like it is everything for us. We are enjoying life so much. We bring him everywhere. You know, life has changed, but not all that much because we always knew if we go somewhere, he goes too.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just such a good baby. And I don't know if that will be for number two. You know, so many people have things to say about that, but you never know. He is truly like he's just such a good baby to us. We're so grateful. And I really think it's partly because like we wanted him so bad. We fought for him so hard. And it's like we love him so much. And it's I don't know.
I feel like it shows through him. You know what I mean? Like he's so chill, he's so happy all the time. It's awesome.
It's pretty amazing. And I can see he's ramping up a bit. He needs a little bit more attention. But before I let you go, can you please tell me what is your very favorite part of parenting Noah?
Oh man, that's such a hard question. But I was just doing it this morning, like watching him smile, like watching his face go from just a neutral face and him looking at Marissa and his face completely lights up. Watching him watch the world and
Right.
seeing that on his face, just being curious and what life looks like to him right now is just like the most beautiful thing. So just watching him grow
Yeah.
up essentially right now in these little
Yeah.
baby stages.
Yeah. That's a good one.
What about you, Marissa?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like what you said was perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is. It is pretty perfect.
Yeah. I feel like I can't pinpoint anything specifically because just I don't know. Everything is we were just saying the other day, like we knew it was gonna be awesome, but like this is like so different than I ever thought it would be in a good way, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to
Yeah.
even put any of it in words.
That's fair. That's really fair. I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with me today and telling me your story. It's a valuable story for people to learn from and And you have a gorgeous, sweet little family there.
Thank you. We really appreciate you having us.
Yes, for sure.
Oh, it's my pleasure, for sure. My honor. As a queer individual with colonial lineage, I want to first acknowledge the land upon which I live and work. Being from what is now known as Burlington, Ontario, I recognize the original ancestry of these lands as they span from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment and beyond. These lands are steeped in Indigenous history that benefits my community every day. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which I stand is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. The land dictates everything about our ways of being. Particularly, the land teaches us about fluidity. Concepts of the binary system and heteropatriarchy were imposed by the colonials who were, at the same time, removing children from their homes, families, and all that was familiar to them. These same children were divided by the only two prescribed binaries recognized by the settlers, and they were forced to conform to a performative, gendered falsehood. The land doesn't operate under binary thinking. It is diverse, complex, and unpredictable at times. Rather, the land holds us and all of our remarkable paths and identities. Every organism and spirit has a purpose. It is from this understanding that I strive to live and grow. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.